All right, greetings. Welcome back to Blackbird News, where everything is connected. How y'all feeling? How y'all doing? Good to see you. We're live on YouTube. Colin, Rockfin. Obsolete Optics. Yeah, I just finished just now, just minutes ago. Finished listening to that interview with Joe Rogan, the RFK interview. Really good. Really, really good. Um, I don't know. He's a pretty interesting and seemingly very authentic person. I really don't see him as somebody who is trying to mislead people, lead people astray, lead people down a primrose path. Tell people he's about something that he's not. I don't. I just don't. I just really have. It's hard for me to actually believe that, but hey, we've all been misled before, right? I don't know. I mean, I don't know that necessarily Bernie Sanders didn't believe what he said or wasn't. I think he was compromised. I think Bernie Sanders was compromised mostly. So it's hard for me. I know that people really get down on Bernie Sanders and say he's a liar, he's a sheepdog, he's a uh what else do they say about him? I don't know. Coward. Maybe he's those things, but maybe he's just, maybe he's just compromised. You know, maybe he, you know, did his best, went for the brass ring and got, you know, figuratively karate chopped, somehow. I don't know. RFK is a recovering alcoholic. I didn't know that. Yeah, that's actually a benefit to, for me too, I think. Although I've known recovering alcoholics that were absolutely full of shit. I've known people in recovery that were completely scrambled human beings. You know, they were doing their best, and there's a lot of scrambled human beings out there, and that's for the most part what AA is, right? Is a place, people who really might be a little bit, wired a little differently than other people. I think I'm one of those people. I'm wired a little differently, and I'm wired in a way to 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 be predisposed to not do healthy things. And I think there's a lot of people out there who are wired that way, who have difficulties, with the day to day dealing with life, and they end up right, and in order to deal with those difficulties, um, you end up using drugs, right, or alcohol, right? That's what happens. It happens to a lot of people. Um, and so I've known people who were recovering, and they weren't using, but that didn't mean that they were that didn't mean that they were not still acting out on all the other things around them. So you know they might have had difficulties with how well they were managing their recovery, but at least they weren't getting in a car loaded and possibly putting somebody's life in danger. At least they weren't active in their disease in making other people miserable because they're active in their disease. At least that. But I've actually known people who were recovering and they were sober, but they were actually making themselves and everyone around them miserable with their actions, even though they were sober. So that can happen too. I don't know. Who knows? Yeah, Schulte, I understand people are mad at Bernie, and I understand that. I understand they're mad at Bernie. I just can't believe that he's, you know, and they call him all kinds of really crazy things. I can't believe that he's, really intentionally trying to hurt people. I think he just, somebody said something to him, or he was shown the light, quote unquote, by very powerful people. And he was like, well, shoot. Maybe I will do a little shilling for the establishment before my time is over. Who knows, And it's unfortunate, Maybe it is cowardly, but when you are presented with the option of facing the loss of your life or the ruination of the rest of your life for your principles and morals, that is to make a strong stand for your principles and morals, that's a defining moment. And that can be a very probably scary moment for a lot of people. Yeah, I saw that. I saw that Cornel West switched to the Green Party. That's an interesting development now, isn't it? Well, so that also speaks to the idea that, maybe he's serious. He wants to run third party. He knows that running on the Democratic Party is not the move. He knows that the Democratic Party is compromised and corrupt. And he's like, well, here, man, how about this? Now this is for free, okay? This is this is my idea for free. Cornel West and RFK Jr. running on the Green Party ticket. Because they have ballot access in every, the Green Party has ballot access in every state. Would they be vilified? Would they be harassed, harangued? Yeah, of course. What if Cornel West and RFK Jr. ran on the same ticket? What a beautiful ticket that would be. I'd be a fan. Get out of the Democratic Party, go run third party, squash these fools, put an end to the Republican and the Democratic duopoly. Put an end to it. And wouldn't that would just be a wonderful, beautiful thing, right? Man. Sign me up. Call me a sucker. Sign me up. Right, Denver. Green Party has ballot access. Yep. Oh, I saw that Biden whistleblower. I saw that. I actually have that tweet in my queue. The Biden whistleblower, dying under suspicious circumstances. I saw that. You would cast your vote for that ticket, Denver? Yeah. I mean, how could you not? I don't know. I think that's a gimme right there. What they would call a gimme. J.A. Moniker, Cornel West, and RFK would get you the ballot. There you go. You want to get people out and have people like super excited? Man, RFK. I might have to tweet that out today. I'm going to tweet that at RFK Jr. and Cornel West. I'm going to say, like, look, guys, here is your can't lose idea. I don't know, Max RJ. I mean, I think in no disrespect to Cornel West, Cornel West is a beautiful person with great ideas, and he's a teacher, and he's a speaker and an orator. I think that RFK comes from a political family and has had so much, experience, right? As a political, he knows how he already has ideas. He's already, when people say, how are you going to stop this, whatever it is, right? And he's like, I've already got it thought out. I already have the path forward. And that's what we need. We need somebody who has a game plan and a path forward. It's a game plan and a path forward. No, they're not running on the same ticket, Schulte. But I think that would be. I think that would be a. Just this is just me. I think that's just a great idea. All right, let's talk about some things today. Other things. Jay Gibbons. We're going to talk about birds too. New report. Jay Gibbons says Audubon Society says 66% of birds in North America are on the eve of extinction. I'm wondering where all the birds are. Period. I'm wondering where all the birds are. Because where I live, traditionally we have a ton of birds in the tree. I have this huge tree. We have all these trees around me, and in past years they've been filled with the raucous noises of birds, and sometimes they're out there. But what I'm hearing right now, and what you guys hear right now, is a whole lot of silence. It is a beautiful sunny day. It is a beautiful summer morning, or has been a beautiful summer morning in June. First day it's felt like summer today. And I have not heard one bird this morning, and I'm wondering why. Not one bird. Exactly, Andre. No insects, no birds. No food source, no birds. That has also been something that I have noticed. Beyond flies and mosquitoes and spiders, I don't see any bugs. I don't see any bees. I don't see any June bugs. I don't see any ladybugs. I see no bugs. I haven't seen one bee in my yard all I guess spring. I've not seen one bee. Where are the bees? There should be bees. I should be hearing the bees when I walk outside into my backyard. I should be hearing, over here in this plant, a big buzz. No bees. And we all know the theories, right? And that is that, the little things like that will make you go, huh? Right? Little things like that might send a little creep of anxiety up the back of your neck. I have seen some birds. I'm not saying I don't see any birds. There are birds around. I just don't hear them. I have not heard the birds. I've not heard the birds singing joyously in the trees for a while. Anyways, we'll get there. The wind turbines burn under lightning strikes in Ontario, Canada. So if anybody wants to know, what one source of the fires might be. Did I say we were live on Callin? We are live on Callin. And I have a brand new spanking cord, and you can call in, and the sound is going to be crystal clean. Wind turbines burned under lightning strikes in Ontario. So, if you're wondering, how'd all the fires start? Somebody's out there lighting the fires. I don't know. Do you think that might light a fire? Does that look like a fire? That's just another point of data. I'm not saying it's just as inconclusive to say, well, all these fires started at the same time, so that means somebody set them. That's just not a good sign. It's a theory. I don't know if it's a sound one. It's a theory. But we have, here are some evidence of some lightning strikes in Ontario and wind turbines, burning. Do you think this could start a fire? That's a possibility. You think the lightning strikes could have been a part of all the fires that are going on in Canada? Yeah. So, when you just jump immediately to like somebody's starting these fires, unless you have like evidence of, showing people starting the fires. I don't know. Unless you have somebody in custody, right? We took, Jenny Lou Haverson into custody today. She was admitted to starting the fires in Quebec. Well, then that would be a data point. That would be a smoking gun. That would be like, oh, hey, look, we thought somebody was starting the fires, and look, there's somebody who was starting the fires. I don't know. I mean, I guess it could be like a Nord Stream situation, but we don't know. We don't know. We don't have evidence. Jenny Lou. You always knew Jenny Lou was crazy. Jenny Lou Haverson. Yeah. She was a little off. Where else are we going? Fire facts from the Boreal Ecologist. Who's saying fire fact 1, the term forest fire is misleading in boreal regions, northern climes. Also, burning are peatlands and permafrost ecosystems which store lots of ancient carbon. So it's not just forests, it's these other, right? Other areas, other other types of vegetation that are burning, right? Peatlands and permafrost ecosystems. Yes, Poppy Davis. People have always started fires. What's different is that they freaking take off, right? Right. The conditions in which the fires are going. Right? A little hotter, a little drier. Makes that fire burn a little hotter, right? I mean, that's kind of basic. There's another fire in North Carolina. Ladies and gentlemen, the Pulp Road fire in North Carolina, 11,500 acres. That's looking like it's going. Yeah, Judy, wind is a big factor too. Sure. Speaking of wind, there's more wind. There's more, extreme weather and more tornadoes. Here's a tornado in Port Clinton, Ohio. Sorry, not Iowa. Ohio, Iowa. Come out. Why can't you show me this thing? Why is my thing acting so slow? It is really not that warm. I don't know why my computer's acting so nuts. Tornado leaves severe damage in Port Clinton, Ohio. Judy Truitt, we are under a fire advisory because of winds for the next few days. Yeah. I mean, that happens. That happens in Southern California, too. As soon as we get some we start getting dry, hot, windy Santa Ana conditions. They're like, well, watch out. It's a good time for a fire to start. Massive floods after heavy rains in Chotan, Rajasthan, India. They're just getting battered. Is anybody on Colin today? We got William on Colin. What's up? Should I do video on Colin, William? I was thinking about enabling the video. I don't know if that would be helpful. Just another view, like another angle of me talking. I don't know if that's going to be helpful. What do you think, William?
Hey, Kev, can you hear me?
Yeah, yeah, I can hear you.
Good, good. You got that cord thing straightened out. It sounds like you
Yeah,
have to switch up. Nice. Well, you can show documents on Callin, obviously, through your camera there, and that might help, pan to those. I don't know, or your videos, like you do when you're doing your YouTube. So that might help you build an audience.
It just might
Yeah,
be something interesting. Oh, because I was watching the Joe Rogan thing today, and it's a podcast, but they're talking on a video, right? And I'm like, all right,
sure.
well, it could be just a little extra feature. If somebody wants to see me, my face, gabbing away, I don't know.
Well, I think like you do, if you refer to the videos, you pan to those so people see the evidence, and then you can have guests on like Joseph if he's willing to appear. It's always good to see the face behind the voice.
I don't know if Colin, if you, I'm not sure how that works. I don't know if you can get the video. Maybe you can. You get the video of whoever's talking to. I don't know. I've never seen. I've actually, unfortunately, I don't spend a lot of time on Colin. I only just do my show on Colin, but I don't really go watch other podcasts on Colin, so I don't know.
I haven't used the video app myself, aspect of it, but I think once you invite someone to speak and bring them up, I think you probably would have an option there, but don't quote me. You'd have to explore it a little bit.
Yeah, I don't know, but that actually could be kind of cool if people could call in and they could do their video too. That would be, I think that would be pretty cool. I'd be into that.
Yeah, you've got some pretty good sizable people with sizable audiences like Aaron Mate does call in, Katie Helpner.
Do they do video?
Yeah.
All right.
Oh wait, no, you know something? The last time you're right. I'm confusing the YouTube. For some reason, I haven't seen them do video, but there's no reason why you couldn't. Why not be the trendsetter?
Sure. Well, Obsolete Optics says yes, callers can share their video too. If you're on a computer, you can share your screen. Okay. Well, that's interesting. Yeah, I have so many questions. Anyways.
The app administrator, his name is Charlie Wiser, Wiser, and you can search for him. His link.
He used to jump on. And when I first started on Colin, he was very active. He would get up in the shows and kind of like give it. If I had an issue with the app, he would kind of steer me in the right direction. They were very good about that. Of trying to.
Well, now Rumble bought him, so we'll see what happens. Apparently, David Sachs is supposed to be somehow involved in the administration process, and I don't know, part owner still, I think. So hopefully it builds an audience. With Rumble, you would think.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, Rumble seems like a kind of a. I stopped doing Rumble because my videos were being viewed by 4 people a day, and I was just all right, I don't need to do all this work, for a couple of people a day, and I don't even know if even those people are seeing the video.
Right.
It's just, but maybe if Colin, is a way for me to grow my audience. It seems a little slow also on Colin, but I do have some followers and I have some regular people, you and some other people are regular people that show up. So
I think we're at the beginning, in other words, the censorship's going to get more intense. We know that from the predatory class, what they're putting out through the World Health Organization, what they want to do, and the UN. So hopefully Rumble and Colin will draw people, and they'll be immune to it somehow. I would imagine these people who have the money to bank it must have a plan. You know what I mean? Not to be censored down.
Well, so far Colin has been really good. I mean, I haven't at all not even gotten a whiff of censorship from Colin. So,
right.
I appreciate that.
Are you on YouTube right now?
I am.
Okay, then I'll let you get back to your thing.
Thanks
for taking. You're welcome.
Peace. Okay, let's keep going. Max, you think it's interesting to have other people on? Yeah, I think it's interesting to hear another voice. I'm so bad at scheduling, guests and getting people to come on. I don't have the bandwidth for the logistics to do that. I just don't. It's really difficult. But I would I'd like to have more guests on. Anyways, it hit 46C in Tuni, India. Around half of the world's agricultural output comes from irrigation, where water is brought to crops from external sources. Unfortunately, these sources, including groundwater, are rapidly depleting due to reoccurring heat waves every year. Yeah, that's kind of logical, right? Somebody says groundwater is Julian Cribb. Groundwater is depleting because it is being extracted at rates far in excess of its natural recharge. Well, that also makes sense too. E.g., in the U.S., the Ogallala Aquifer, water extracted in the past 150 years, may take 6,000 years to replenish. I mean, it's kind of a simple idea. When it gets hotter, the water goes away. I don't know. From Poppy, the IPCC has failed in its mission, task, charge. Completely failed the world it was set up to protect. COP28 being set in a petrostate. Isn't it? Yeah, is it in Saudi Arabia this year or something like that, or Qatar or someplace? And lead by its oil head doesn't matter. In fact, it's blatantly appropriate. No progress has been made, nor will it be made by this organization. I mean, if you want to understand, if you want to see a co-opted, corrupt organization, or a, I don't know, institution, the IPCC, they're, they're completely gutless, and unable to really, enforce or really put forward strong messaging because the oil companies are like, no, no, no. Make it a little softer, would you? Tone it down a bit, would you? We got a lot of oil to sell, you know? And we don't want anybody mucking up our, future forecasts. We don't want the, we're banking on particular amount of oil being pumped in the next 10, 20 years. So, and we don't want we don't want to lower our profit profile, because that would be bad for business. I think this all is very simple to understand. CO2 up 2.93 parts per million. We'll call that 3. Just like it was 1.69 Celsius a week ago in June, or not a couple days ago. We'll call that 1.7, shall we? CO2 up 2.93 parts per million from a year ago. Yeah. Well, it keeps on going in one particular direction, doesn't it? So, and the temperature seems to keep going in one direction. The melting ice keeps going in one direction. The extreme weather events keep going in one direction. They're not going in the other direction. Something must be happening. I don't know what it is. Can you help me out? Oh, so let's look at this birds. Let's talk about the birds. Let's talk about the birds. And this is actually very revealing. And you could use the word frightening if you want to. I think it's pretty frightening. From Doomer Girl News. When hundreds of birds were found dead along Mexico's Pacific coast earlier this year, experts immediately suspected avian flu. That's funny that they would just immediately suspect the flu, but whatever. You know about experts. You know these, random, just nameless, formless, shapeless experts. We just call them experts. Tests on the dead birds revealed they had died of starvation, not flu. Why are they dying from starvation? Well, let's find out. Could it be warmer water is driving the fish away? The birds, as in other places, are losing their food source, and when they lose their food source, then the birds, when the food source goes away, the birds go away. Anyways, when hundreds of birds were found dead along Mexico's Pacific coast earlier this year, hundreds of birds. Did you guys even know this? I didn't see this story. Did you guys see this story? But the government said Thursday that the warming Pacific Ocean currents associated with El Nino, not bird flu, were responsible for the mass die-off. Well, could the warming ocean currents also be associated with climate change? I mean, it's funny, and it's not, but, right, they're saying, well, El Nino. But, I mean, we're going to get a super El Nino this year. Why? Because climate change and El Nino together are going to make it already. I mean, you've seen the graphs. If you haven't seen the graphs, I suggest you go look for the graphs. They're everywhere. That the sea surface temperatures are off the chart, literally off the charts, just like out of control, hotter than they've ever been. That's not due to El Nino. That's due to, the fact that the oceans are finally releasing the store of energy that they've been absorbing for decades. And they're going to release this heat. And El Nino is going to help that along. But you have, two things coinciding, climate change and El Nino, gearing up for a super El Nino. So it's a little bit misleading to just say El Nino. Salt Laker says El Denial. Mexico's Agriculture Department said Thursday that tests on the dead birds revealed they had died of starvation, not flu. The department said that the warming surface water in the Pacific caused by El Nino can drive fish into deeper, cooler water, making it harder for birds to find food. Most of the dead birds were sooty shearwaters, seagulls, and pelicans. Not pelicans. They died in states ranging from Chiapas on the border with Guatemala all the way north and west to Baja California. According to autopsies carried out by veterinarians and specialized biologists, it was found that the animals died of starvation. The department said the most probable cause of the epidemiological event is the warming of the waters of the Pacific due to the El Nino meteorological effect, which causes fish to seek deeper, colder waters, preventing seabirds from catching food. Are they going to say something about climate change in here? El Nino is a natural, temporary, and occasional warming part of the Pacific that shifts weather patterns across the globe. However, if you've actually been paying attention to any of the sea surface charts, I'm adding this. This is not in the article. If you've been paying attention, we seem to be abnormally warm. And that might not have anything to do with El Nino. In May, U.S. National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration climate scientist Michelle Leroux said El Nino had formed this year a month or two earlier than usual, which gives it room to grow. And there's a 56% chance it will be considered strong, and 25% chance it reaches supersized levels. That's all they have to say? Jesus. Man, so the obfuscation is strong with people. Even phys.org. Y'all didn't say one thing about climate change. Well, all the energy that's been soaked up by the oceans of the world for decades and decades might be finally doing a little outgassing. And that, combined with El Nino, might set us up for a super El Nino, and that would really be a bad time for the people of the planet Earth. Holy I'm I don't know. I don't know how to feel about that one. Anyways, all that is very interesting. But you know that fish are leaving their natural areas all over the world, not just the Pacific Ocean. They're being driven to colder climates north and into deeper waters because all of the ocean waters of the planet are warmer than usual. So the fish are like, I got to get out of here because it's a little hot. And when they go, I got to get out of here, that means all the other animals that rely on those fish for food, they also have problems. That's happening on the East Coast too. Fish are migrating to more northerly climates, northern waters because it's too warm. Traditionally where they lived in the South now is too warm for them. So they are migrating, they are moving. Okay. That's not El Nino. That's called climate change. And the fact that they didn't even mention it once in that article. Wow. It sounds like they're really pushing this climate change agenda. They just don't lose an opportunity, do they? They never lose an opportunity to overplay it, huh? And they do that by not even saying anything at all about it. So, I don't know. Somebody make that make sense. William says clams and mussels are being cooked too. Yeah. Tidal pools, roasting. Yeah. Absolutely. Jeff Birardelli says quite a few meteorologists in disbelief. Mystified, stupefied, confused. Right? All the words that happen with scientists. Scientists are baffled once again, anyways, by what's happening on the planet. Quite a few meteorologists in disbelief at the pattern across the U.S. strong subtropical jet stream feeding widespread severe weather in the south, a winter El Nino pattern in the summer, a polar jet extension in the Ohio Valley, two with incredible high latitude blocking. So, I mean, yeah, the jet stream is shredded. It's absolutely everywhere. And this is kind of what's driving, the weirdest weather, right? Anyways, he says we have theories as to why high latitude blocking has been so overbearing. Many believe it's Arctic amplification. Some feel it's a reflection of stratospheric forcing. It's probably both. It doesn't have to be either or. It could be and. But my observations, thinking back to the 2015-2016 El Nino, there's just more energy. What's that energy? That energy is heat. El Nino years, especially, there's in El Nino years, especially, there's a greater amount of energy in the system, and it seems to piggyback on the prevailing pattern that given season. I look at greenhouse warming the same way. It adds energy, amplifying the prevailing pattern. Heat domes, wavy jet streams, atmospheric rivers. The extra energy props up and enhances the prevailing sub-seasonal pattern. Right. Just like the fish are dying not because of the fish are moving not just because of an El Nino. They're moving because the El Nino, coupled with a gradual warming of the planet, has made it extra warm, and they've got to get out of here. They got to go other places. And the birds are like, hey, come back. I'm hungry. With that said, it's often hard to attribute to any one thing, and it's typically a combination of many. Curious to hear thoughts from meteorologists on the very unusual pattern right now. Anyways, so they're all, standing around scratching their heads. Judy Truitt says even my rednecked rancher couple knew this about the jet stream. Yeah, I mean, farmers know. Farmers and ranchers know. Ask a farmer and a rancher if the weather is screwed up and weird and not the same anymore. I mean, to a T, they will probably all tell you like, "Yep." I mean, whether they want to attribute it to climate change or not, but farmers know. Daniel Ellsberg has passed away. Daniel Ellsberg of the Pentagon Papers fame. Before we look at this, real quick, I'll let you know the very, very, very best ways, most direct and best ways to support the channel are here. PayPal.me/Kevin Sandbloom, Venmo @Kevin Sandbloom, Cash App @Red Llama Music, BuyMeCoffee.com/Black Bear News. And I appreciate everybody who has been supporting me through the years. Anyways, Daniel Ellsberg as a true whistleblower. We'll just read a little bit about this from Jacobin. American hero Daniel Ellsberg. Few have contributed as much to resisting the horrors of war and the accompanying undemocratic regime of secrecy as Daniel Ellsberg, who died today at the age of 92. He lived a long life, 92. Few people can say their actions helped to strengthen press freedom, end a war, and bring down a presidency. Daniel Ellsberg, who died today at the age of 92, did just that. Ellsberg came to public prominence in 1971 when he photocopied a secret history of U.S. involvement in the Vietnam War, what became known as the Pentagon Papers, and gave a copy to the New York Times. The New York Times' decision to publish the papers set off a landmark press freedom battle that went all the way to the Supreme Court. Yeah, they were fighting for press freedom and First Amendment rights all the way back then. And we're still fighting for those rights. Yeah, that's right. Oh, yeah. And Ted Kaczynski also. We did talk about Ted Kaczynski passing away, but not too in depth. But he's an interesting character, and that's a really interesting story. Anyways, Ellsberg became the first whistleblower indicted under the Espionage Act. In addition to seeking an indictment, Richard Nixon also set up a White House plumbers unit to gather dirt on Ellsberg. Has anybody heard about the Woody Harrelson show called The White House Plumbers? I haven't watched any of it yet. Has anybody watched it? I'm kind of dying to watch that show. I have no time. I don't actually watch, what passes for television, Netflix or anything else. I don't have any time to watch anything anymore. So my time is limited to just a few hours a week. Really? Pauline wrote an article about Uncle Ted? Huh. I'm interested in that. Right. Ellsberg vindicated that the Bay of Tonkin was a lie. The Bay of Tonkin was a false flag. Engineered and designed to get us more deeply into the Vietnam War. And it worked. And that is my friends, is a conspiracy fact, right? That's when a conspiracy theory actually is true. Undeniable that it's been admitted. The people that did the Bay of Tonkin or Gulf of Tonkin, whatever you want to call it, they admitted to it. It's a fact. It's not a theory. So conspiracy theory, vindicated. For the next half a century, Ellsberg was a continuous campaigner for peace and disarmament, as well as an unflinching champion of those who faced the wrath of some secrecy regime, the same secrecy regime. Whoa. Should we call that like the deep state? Secrecy regime? Some people call that the deep state. That had sought to imprison him. While Ellsberg spent 5 decades as an anti-war activist, his career began in a very different way. In Ellsberg's own recounting, he had once been an ardent cold warrior, but his experience working for the war machine led to a change of heart. He worked in a number of positions. Well, golly gee, how many people does that happen to? How many veterans do you know that are absolutely disillusioned with our country and what we stand for? There's a lot of them out there. He worked in a number of positions within the U.S. national security state. He was in the Pentagon the day North Vietnamese forces allegedly attacked the USS Maddox in the Gulf of Tonkin. He quickly became aware of the fact that the government was lying about the incident. He traveled to Vietnam twice, first in 1961 as part of the Pentagon fact-finding mission, then again in 1965 as part of a State Department mission, during which he was photographed in camouflage carrying a rifle. In addition to being involved with the U.S. war in Vietnam, Ellsberg was involved with U.S. nuclear policy, something he described as being a doomsday planner. Eventually, Ellsberg would become horrified by the prospects of a nuclear doomsday and turn against the Vietnam War. While working at the Pentagon-connected RAND Corporation, they don't have some kind of strange, spotty, checkered history. Ellsberg went from defending the war to becoming actively involved in anti-war organizing. He befriended Howard Zinn and Noam Chomsky, participating in demonstrations with them. Ellsberg led an affinity group during the 1971 May Day protest against the war that included both Zinn and Chomsky. But the pivotal moment in Ellsberg's life occurred in August 1969 when he attended an anti-war conference. He listened to the stories of draft resistors who would be jailed for their act of courage. After hearing them, Ellsberg went into the bathroom, lay down on the floor, and began to cry. At this point, Ellsberg made his most fateful decision. Ellsberg had first come to view the war as a mistake, but eventually came to realize it was a crime. And it was. While a mistake can be corrected, a crime must be resisted. A whistleblower against the war. Kind of like the Iraq war, right? That wasn't a mistake. That was intentional. That was a crime. As a RAND employee, Ellsberg had access, well, and we could talk about, we could apply that to so many things. As a RAND employee, Ellsberg had access to a 47-volume, 7,000-page study on the Vietnam War. The study went all the way back to the Truman administration when the United States had funded French attempts to recolonize the country. It proved that step by step across 2 decades and multiple administrations, the U.S. government had lied to the people about the war. Ellsberg decided to release the top secret history to the people. Whistleblowers today are able to copy and transmit large amounts of data with ease, but at the time there were no flash drives or email. The only way for Ellsberg to copy the documents was with a photocopier. That task took months. Ellsberg initially attempted to give the Pentagon Papers to members of Congress, but they were reluctant to accept them. No, thank you. No, I'm good. He then turned to the New York Times. After intense internal deliberation, the paper, guided by its general counsel, James Goodall, decided that publishing them was in the public interest and that the First Amendment protected the right to do so. The Nixon administration sought an injunction under the Espionage Act, preventing the New York Times from continuing to publish the secret history. Temporarily silenced, Ellsberg took the Pentagon Papers to the Washington Post. The Post published them before also being hit with an injunction. This began a process where, as one paper was enjoined, another would step up and publish the Pentagon Papers. Man, back when the journalists were journalists, when journalism happened, when papers were actually doing things like exposing the powerful and not being their mouthpieces. In addition to the press, Ellsberg arranged for the anti-war senator Mike Gravel, y'all remember Mike Gravel, to receive a copy. Gravel entered them into the congressional record. Eventually, the Supreme Court ruled that the government could not prevent newspapers from publishing the Pentagon Papers. Hear, hear. Yet, the court left open the question of whether newspapers could be prosecuted under the Espionage Act after they had done so. As a result, Gravel struggled to find a publisher to print the Pentagon Papers, though eventually the Unitarian Universalist Beacon Press stepped in. While it remained an open question whether the Espionage Act would be used against the publisher, the Nixon administration brought Espionage Act charges against Ellsberg and Anthony Russo for liberating the Pentagon Papers. Ellsberg had fully expected to spend the rest of his life in jail, but drawing on the experience of war resistors, he copied them anyway. As he would later tell a journalist when turning himself in, "Wouldn't you go to jail if it would help end the war?" The Nixon administration's misconduct, however, had so soiled the case that a judge had to throw it out. Prior to this, the draconian nature of the Espionage Act had all but ensured Ellsberg's and Russo's convictions. Ellsberg's pursuit of a better world did not cease. He was a frequent fixture of protests against U.S. wars, whether they be in Central America or Iraq. By 2018, Ellsberg had been arrested 87 times in acts of civil disobedience. Courage. Ellsberg also took on renewed prominence during the Obama years. Army Private Chelsea Manning gave secret documents about U.S. wars to WikiLeaks. Manning, like Ellsberg, was indicted under the Espionage Act. In the midst of her court-martial, The Guardian began publishing a series of revelations about the National Security Agency's global surveillance programs. This information came from whistleblower Edward Snowden. Soon, Snowden would also be indicted under the Espionage Act. A new war on whistleblowers was underway, and the Espionage Act was the government's main weapon against them. Ellsberg was vilified by the political establishment when he released the Pentagon Papers. Henry Kissinger, who recently marked his 100th birthday, dubbed him the most dangerous man in America. Said the most dangerous man in America. Yet, as the decades of past history has proven that Ellsberg's acts were heroic and that Henry Kissinger is a bloodthirsty, blood-sucking ghoul. Wasn't in the article. When new whistleblowers like Manning popped up, some commentators perversely tried to contrast them to Ellsberg. He was a good whistleblower, they were not. Ellsberg never stood for that, as he recognized himself in their actions. He told journalists, "I was willing to go to prison. I never thought for the rest of my life I would ever hear anyone willing to do that, to risk their life so that horrible, awful secrets could be known. Then I read those logs and learned Chelsea Manning was willing to go to prison. I can't tell you how much that affected me." Ellsberg not only spoke out on behalf of Manning, but attended her court-martial. It was through his campaigning against the Espionage Act that I got to know him. I saw him speak in person for the first time at a rally outside Fort Meade on behalf of Manning. Years later, as policy director of Defending Rights and Dissent, I spoke to him as Ellsberg supported our work to reform the Espionage Act, halt the extradition of Julian Assange, and secure a pardon for Daniel Hale. Ellsberg's commitment and compassion were incredibly clear to me. When it came to whistleblowers persecuted and tortured by the U.S. government, the stakes weighed heavily on his mind. In December 2022, when Hale supporters organized a virtual press conference calling for commutation of Hale's sentence, we asked Ellsberg to speak. It was clear he was not feeling well. And none of us thought he would actually make it. Yet to the surprise of all the organizers, Ellsberg appeared wearing a full suit and tie. Such was his dedication to freeing his fellow whistleblower. In recent years, Ellsberg became increasingly focused on abolishing nuclear weapons. In 2017, he published his second memoir, revealing for the first time his role as a doomsday planner. He also made another revelation. At the same time he copied the Pentagon Papers, he also copied a study of the U.S. response to the 1958 Taiwan Straits crisis. According to the study, U.S. generals pushed for a nuclear strike. By publishing this study, Ellsberg had again violated the Espionage Act. In doing so, he had two aims. First, with tensions heating up between the United States and China over Taiwan again, Ellsberg wanted to warn the world how perilously close it had come to nuclear war in the past. Also, he challenged the U.S. government to charge him so that he could fight the constitutionality of the Espionage Act. This was not Ellsberg's final battle with official secrecy. 2 months before his cancer diagnosis, Ellsberg revealed that in 2010, WikiLeaks had given him copies of the materials provided by Chelsea Manning. Ellsberg had held onto the materials as a backup. Wow. Wow, I did not know that. That's fairly amazing. Although he never published them, the Espionage Act equally criminalizes retaining national defense information as it does publishing it. Ellsberg urged the U.S. government to indict him along with Assange. Again, he made his motives clear. He wished to stage a constitutional challenge to the Espionage Act. I will continue as long as I'm able. In a recent interview with the Washington Post, Ellsberg noted the similarities between the Vietnam War and the current war in what? Ukraine. Both wars were obviously stalemated, but respective governments denied it. I'm reliving a part of history I had no desire to live again, and I hoped I wouldn't. And by the way, that makes it easier to leave. This is where I came in, Ellsberg told his interviewer. In his email announcing his terminal cancer, the threat of nuclear war was clearly weighing heavily on Ellsberg's mind, stating that the world risked nuclear war over Ukraine or Taiwan. Ellsberg wrote, "It is long past time, but not too late, for the world's publics at last to challenge and resist the willed moral blindness of their past and current leaders. I will continue as long as I'm able to help these efforts." While he viewed the world as close to catastrophe as ever, he noted, "I'm happy to know that millions of people, including all those friends and comrades to whom I address this message, have the wisdom, the dedication, and the moral courage to carry on with these causes and to work unceasingly for the survival of our planet and its creatures." When I interviewed him for the 50th anniversary of the Pentagon Papers release, it was clear that he was far less interested in reminiscing about the past than carrying forward his urgent work to avert nuclear war and reform the Espionage Act. Honoring Ellsberg requires not just recalling him as a historic figure, but carrying on his work and legacy to dismantle the machinery of the war that has claimed far too many lives and end its accompanying regime of secrecy that crushes truth tellers while granting impunity to war criminals. All right. It's a pretty good obit there from Jacobin. All right, guys, that does it for me. Thank you for your eyes, your ears, and your conscience. I'm not going to be here tomorrow. It's Father's Day. I'm going to take the day off. So I'll see you all on Monday at the regular time of 12 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time. And thank you all. Enjoy your weekend. And until next time, peace.